that a Grace is probably going to be picked up now, and then maybe a Weapon Glaive or Weapon Kestrel to try and counter that Idris.
Yeah, well, there is the Lance ban, the Scarf ban, and the Idris pick. You know, we talked about those first ban slots either going to be on those mage heroes or going to be for the Roam, and we got a bit of both there. And then we saw the Idris pickup, which you touched on, Weapon Power Idris just being so strong right now. And there's the Glaive pickup, which we've seen Glaive in quite a few matches, just fits in really nicely. I think he's in a good place, obviously. The Weapon Power Glaive we haven't seen. CP has definitely fallen off. There's a few patches back when CP was always constantly being used, but back to the Weapon Power, people just go Tension Bow. It's good to get in there, just get the early damage off, and then when you build into that mid game, you really start hitting hard, and he has quite a decent range we've seen in a lot of fights. And there's going to be the Cruel ban and the Celeste ban followed through. So what do you think about those?
Yeah, the Celeste ban makes a lot of sense because of the Scarf initial ban, so they didn't want to play either of the mages. They were eventually all banned away, and the Grace pick obviously is just smart because they wanted to first pick the Glaive, I suppose, because they think it's a really good Idris counter, and it is. Glaive is fantastic against Idris if you can snowball the early game, but if you can't, then Glaive is a bit risky to play because late game he's just not that good. He doesn't have the damage Idris does, and if he doesn't burst Idris down immediately, you're just not going to win that team fight. I think around this compound there's an awful lot they could go for. They're going to pick up the Lyra just to give some healing, and now it depends what kind of composition Elite 8 want to run here. They could either pick up a Weapon Blackfeather in the jungle to go with CP Idris, or maybe they want to do a Weapon Idris with a CP Fortress. We've seen that before. We saw CP Idris Weapon Fortress. I highly doubt that's going to come out. There's a lot better weapon junglers left. But it's really, yeah, they could round out their comp with maybe a Batiste, could work really well. We haven't seen much Batiste, but he's still an extremely strong hero.
Yes, and looks like draft has just been paused, but talking on how they might finish the comp there, yeah, I do think they might be looking for some kind of backline jungler with a bit of range in the team comp, or they could just go all in, as you suggested, maybe a Fortress pickup or a Black Feather if they really want to commit to these things. But they've got the Idris already, who's more than likely going to be that Weapon Power Idris up in the front line, which should have good synergy with Lyra in the first place. And Idris in his own kit should have enough sustainability to keep him alive. And when we look on the side of Infamous, they were obviously looking for a stun-heavy, a CC-heavy comp, I should say, and that is why that Celeste ban that came out second on the side of Elite 8, you're right, made a lot of sense. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're still looking for maybe a Roma with those kind of capabilities, or they could just decide to, I don't know, really here you would imagine a CP laner at this point.
Yeah, they could go CP lane. Skye work really well. We've seen a lot of Skye playing against someone like Blackfeather, so it would be really hard. It's a really tough job to play Skye against a double assassin comp. One thing that could work really well, because it is very likely to be a Weapon Idris, is maybe a Rhyme or someone like Rona, who wants to be engaged on, and so their dive comp just becomes kind of useless. The problem with picking a hero like that is they'll just turn it into CP Idris, and then you're countered because CP Idris isn't a dive, he's just a poke hero. Maybe they even go double CP with the CP Blackfeather as well, and so it's really good. The Dagio's not expecting it. Is a CP laner.
I really am. If it's going to be a CP Idris, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, definitely. Both teams going aggressive early game.
Oh, there's going to be the afterburn onto Anime Save Me, and early first blood going over to the side of Infamous, and they're not stopping there. They're looking for more. They're going to bully out, probably take half this jungle, turn around and take the mid treant as well. And right now, yeah, Infamous Legion, you can see if you get caught out in that comp, it's very hard to escape from. A lot of CC there, and it just flows well. They weren't able to get the probably preferred pick of Scarf or Celeste. I mean, they banned Scarf out themselves, but as you said, they might have been looking for a Celeste pick.
Yeah, definitely it's possible that Infamous thought we can first pick Glaive. Maybe they'll let us get the Celeste. They'll let it through. Dagio is probably just as good. In fact, probably much better at early game. and it is a really common rotation to go aggressive early on. Look at that wave for Spaghetti. He's got to try and clear. So that's really smart from Tesserboy to push Hunjaeger's back and allow Spaghetti just as much time as possible to try and clear these minions. And yeah, actually, Official Hind isn't even going to contest Spaghetti while he's trying to farm. And yeah, it's really common to see 3-man aggressive rotation into the enemy jungle. And both teams tried it. Infamous managed to win the fight, and so they could secure the 2 healing camps and just ignore the fronts, because front camps don't give that much gold or experience, and it's kind of not worth your time to try and risk taking the enemy fronts when they might be able to contest the Elder Treant if you decide to do that.
Yeah, and I think continuing on that point of the 3-man engage, I think generally just teams with a Grace like to be aggressive, because Grace with that, I believe, Retribution perk is able to go in and land some extra damage on those basic attacks. And it looks like Spaghetti going to be just stopped from backing there. And I think we talked about before just the synergy of what Infamous Legion have, but the question is, how are Elite 8 going to turn this one around? How are they going to have to engage into this fight, and who should the target be?
Yeah, I think Elite 8 need to dive in on Adagio if they decide to dive in, but with their CP Idris now that they have decided to go, which I'm extremely pleased with. I think it's the much smart decision against this comp. They just have to outpoke Adagio, so throw some shackles down, make sure they don't get hit by the arcane fire, and then as soon as Glaive Afterburns in, block the Afterburn, switch focus to Glaive because he'll be out of position, and then CP Idris can just do the rest of the work. I think if Blackfeather decides to dive in on Adagio, that won't be as good, because that leaves Glaive free to die on the Idris, so dive on the Idris, which I think Glaive v Idris is much better than Blackfeather v Adagio. And nice damage onto Tesserboy, but not going to be too much. I think Spaghetti wants to clear this wave, so unlikely Shingy's going to get the afterburn in just yet. Oh, maybe not.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to go in with a Holy Nova, and they get the knock up onto Anime Save Me, but both roamers on each team are going low, and it's just going to be a bit of trade damage. No one going in to secure the kills just yet. And it looks like they're going to, at least for side of Elite 8, backing away from this one. You can see Chingy and Tesserboy still waiting in that brush. Definitely Infamous, a team to stick together even in this early game, just looking for those initial kills, because I think what Infamous are really good at, and it's what we always talk about, is once you get kills, to get objectives, get maybe say, even if it's just a bit of CS, a bit of farm away from the enemy, if you're getting objectives after getting those kills, that's really what's going to push a team ahead. And Infamous, being one of the top teams in Southeast Asia, knows exactly how to do that.
Yeah, certainly. Infamous are actually being really impressive with their rotations. He has got quite a few rotations with Shingy to the back camps, 6. And Shingy's only level 5, and also Spaghetti's farming extremely well, already on 45 CS, going to be 47 now, and that's extremely good for an Adagio to try and get ahead, but Hunjaeger's is pretty even, to be fair. He might have stolen some jungle away because Official Hind is behind. Official Hind!
Great afterburn onto Official Hind, followed up by the Holy Nova. It's going to knock him up, but it's not going to be enough damage, as we see Anime Save Me putting the renewal in there to save their life. Not renewal, my bad. Mind blank.
Imperial Sigil.
The Imperial Sigil. And this is why Minimai has had to save the day.
That's the only reason I'm here, is for ability now. Nice to know.
No, I enjoy talking with you. Does that help?
Yeah, if you say so. And Anime Save Me actually used. He's going aggressive. No, okay, ran very defensive after doing 2 turret shots, and Minion Candy looks like it was not wasted too much. It was pretty effective at stopping that push from Infamous onto the turret. But Spaghetti is able to secure the CS, and there's going to be some more jungle rotations with laners going to backs, because it's just the ambient gold going up to 85% means that it was meant to encourage captains to roam down to the jungle, but it just means laners should do it as much as possible to get as much gold as possible and just farm them up into late game, especially with someone like a CP Idris.
Yeah, it's definitely the strategy we've been seeing. I'm not sure whether I should say abused or just used, because it is what SCMC kind of had in mind when putting that into play by trying to incentivize the Roma to roam a bit more. But if anything, it's making the Roma just substitute into lane and be up in lane on their own. Right now, we just saw before Anime Save Me and Tezboy up in the lane on their own. Not really doing too much, but Chingy right now gonna go in with the afterburn, hits them into the wall there. They managed to secure the kills, and that's a second kill going over to the side of Infamous, where it's almost 7 minutes in. Goldmine not completely full just yet, but it looks like Infamous gonna take the opportunity to go for it, increase that lead that they've got by 1k at the moment.
But Anime Save Me with a sigil. Lyra is one of the best heroes to steal a gold mine, and it is going to be secured by Glaive. Anime Save Me out of position now.
Yeah, but going over the wall with the afterburn doesn't catch out Anime Save Me, so they were at least able to secure their own gold mine. That is the worst feeling ever when a mid objective gets taken by the enemy, especially if it's something like the Imperial Sigil. But in that case, you can see that Chigi already with that Sorrow Blade has enough damage to go through and take the gold mine secured, very clear. And right now we're going to see just both teams kind of, if we look at it right now, it's definitely going a lot of the fights in favor of Infamous, only because of they go off these afterburns, and this is why Glaive is such a good pickup right now.
Yeah, definitely. They are using the afterburns very effectively, and even though we're seeing an extremely passive game, Infamous are ahead. They're trying to start to push their advantage, but they don't want to get into a team fight where it's not the right position, where Glaive can't get a good afterburn. So that is possibly slowing down their aggression, which could be a real problem up against Idris. And Black Feather could be out of position, but he knows that Infamous are rotating down. Now this is a 2 versus 3 in the lane. Infamous probably able to either seize this high or go for a sentry rotation now. Yeah, most likely go towards that official highness, trying to 1v1, 1v3. Oh, good score.
He needs to get out of there soon. Uses the Rose Offensive to do so. They go, and Infamous just going to turn their attention onto the Crystal Sentry. They managed to take it down. And right now, they're just bullying out Officialheim from his own jungle. You can see in terms of farm, it's not really affecting him too much. And we look across the board. In fact, Hun Jaeger is actually ahead of Spaghetti in farm. And I think that be attributed to the fact that Spaghetti is always rotating with the rest of his team instead of being up in that lane position. But when you look over at Chingy sitting at 47 and Officialheim at 43, you're kind of wondering where all this disparity is coming in right now. And I think it's just more so the fact of, you said before, it's a quite passive game, and if they let go too slowly on the side of Infamous and they don't start pushing it a bit more, it really could swing around quickly.
Yeah, definitely. Someone like a CP Idris is more than capable of turning around a gold deficit, especially one as slight as it is at the moment. So I think Shingy with that infusion, and Spaghetti already popped his, they're definitely looking to fight, but you do not want to fight after just taking about 6 hits from a Chakram in the team.
Oh no, there's going to be the Arcane Passage into the fight, and they're jumping. Tezboy is going to be the first target. Officialheim trying to follow through to Chingy. The Afterburn's going to hit onto Hun Jaegers, who's trying to hide behind the gold miner. It's going to get the Chakram off before he dies to get the kill. Now Spaghetti fighting out with Officialheim, and it's going to be the ace for the side of Elite8, but just barely did Officialheim go down at the end there. Anime Save Me not quite able to save Officialheim with the Imperial Sigil. However, we see this massive ace-up minion wave pushing through, and it should surely be able to take this turret on their own. Grace will be there, but I don't think she can save it on her own. No.
If I was Spaghetti, I'd be very annoyed. Look at that way. Tezboy is going to go low just to the damage from those minions. And one heal will just take them all down. Boom, bye-bye, about 15 CS. But yeah, that's a really good fight for Elite8. Even though only their captain was alive, you saw that the minion wave was bigger for them, so it was able to easily push in and take down the turret. I think the fight was pretty messy for both teams. There was a lovely Atlas from Anime Save Me. Picks up Atlas' second item, and Arcane Passage into the back line, got Shingy and Spaghetti with that Atlas Pauldron. So I think what Spaghetti needs to do is, as soon as that Atlas comes down, your CP Adagio, so you're not going to deal any damage with your basics, you should just start, heal yourself, start casting your ultimate while you're Atlas, and then once the Atlas wears off, then you basically attack everyone.
Yep, and we see Infamous now trying to get something in return here, putting a lot of poke down. There's going to be the engage coming through by Chingy with the afterburn, but doesn't hit Hunyega's back in the right direction. Divine Intervention going to be used onto Spaghetti to keep him alive, but we've got heals coming through on both sides for both roamers, and right now it's going to be Tezaboy jumping in there with the Benediction, gets the Holy Nova. It's going to be the trade out for Grace for the Idris, but meanwhile, Official Hand trying to dive onto Spaghetti, but Spaghetti stands his ground. 9 broken myth stacks there, able to take him down easily, and you can see how dangerous this Adagio is if you're not able to get the Atlas Pauldron onto him.
Yeah, some really fantastic damage from Spaghetti, just deleting Official Hein, who has got Serpent's Mask and Breaking Point, but only tier 1 weapon defense on Spaghetti. So that's really interesting build from Official Hein. I think when you're going up against Adagio, you need to just get some defense, because otherwise he's going to burst you down so quickly, even with just 2 damage items. Once he builds up those myth stacks, which are quite easy to do on Adagio, yeah, you really are in trouble. Hunyega's going to get a block now and has got a bit of minion candy, probably to push the wave, but it may be that Elite 8 wants to try and force a fight under Sentry. But Infamous looking like they are able to just keep pushing this gold lead, and Hunyega's has got 3 damage items, and Spaghetti's only got 2, but he's got a full Aegis. So in a 1 versus 1, Spaghetti most likely will win, as long as he dodges at least a Chakram hit or 2.
Well, however, compared to the really early game we saw, now Elite 8 at least have a bit of a fighting chance, and they're starting to push back with some damage. They're at least trading out kills, but not necessarily winning out the fights completely. But you said before that really CP Idris could turn a fight around really well if you aren't careful and paying attention to where those chakrams go. And especially with CP Idris being, if you're able to maneuver around your own chakrams and get the most damage out of them, can really cause a lot of, I guess, I would say you can, for an Idris, you're going to be able to build up those broken myth stacks, and as well, you can see the Shatter Glass that was built up on Hunyega, CP Idris build that I like to go compared to the Frostburn build. It's just so much more damage, especially against a team that wouldn't build shield. However, Infamous respected that, and they've gone for Aegis all across the board for Spaghetti and Chingy.
Yeah, that's definitely a respect for CP Idris. Just if you don't build that just early on, then it will feel like his damage is constantly too high. If he's got 2 damage items and you've got only, it's going to be hurting a lot. If he's got 3 damage items and you've got a little bit of defense, it's still going to be hurting a lot. So prioritizing that early, really important. And I feel Hunyega's is going to go for the 4 damage items Idris. I'd expect an Eve or Frostburn as a 4th item. But Adagio now with 3 damage items and Aegis is actually ahead quite considerably of Hunyega's. So Elite 8, if they are looking to fight, it will most likely be under this Crystal Sentry or contesting this gold mine.
Yes, as we see, there's only 20 seconds left for that gold mine. I think Elite 8 would have liked it to try catch up. The gold difference right now sitting at 29.7 over to the 34.5k. So it would be nice for Elite 8 to have, but right now they've really just got to focus at keeping control over this lane and the pressure, especially with Kraken now coming up onto the fold. You need to keep that lane evenly pushed, or more preferably pushed towards the enemy turret, and it gives you a bit more breathing space around the Kraken to roam freely. But right now, Elite 8 probably looking for, they need to win a fight here. It's going to be so important. If they lose, I can imagine that Infamous is going to take the second and the base turret.
Yeah, certainly could be. A clean ace would lead to that, but it looks like it's going to be someone caught out.
Ooh, there's going to be the arcane passage onto the backline once again, but Glaive is on the backline of Elite 8, manages to take down Blackfeather instantly, and Hunyega's and Anime Save Me now on the run. And do you think Infamous are going to have the confidence now? Well, they answer it
that
for
is
me.
The answer. Yeah, Infamous deciding to start up Kraken straight away. They know the wave is pushed, so that forces Idris to be in lane, at least for a little bit. But now Elite 8, you know exactly what's happening. A Chakram and an Imperial Sigil are both going to go try and steal this Kraken, but Spaghetti is having none of it. They're going to fight.
And there's going to be the afterburn over the wall just to keep him away, but turning their attention back to the Kraken now, knowing Spaghetti can handle it alone. The 1v2 manages to take down Jaegers, and I think it's surprising to see that in this situation that Lyra's healing just isn't enough anymore, and it's why I think that when it comes to roamers, Grace is just such a better roamer to have that, and we talked about it in the pre-draft, or the extended draft I should say, because it's going on a fair while, but Grace with that engage comp, with the engage in her kit, as well as that healing coming out from Divine Intervention, and you talked about the Echo build, which was more than likely going to happen, and we see it there. It should be up in another 7 seconds as well, but they're not even going to wait for that. They are just trying to push this Kraken in, and there's those 2 turrets I predicted would come out from Infamous, because right now they're just so strong, and even though the kills are only 4 ahead for the side of Infamous, who are seeing 8 to 4, we can see that gold slowly creeping up to the 10k, as they're now seeing at 40.1k and going up against 35k.
Yeah, slowly increasing this gold lead. It's only 5k, so definitely able to be turned around if Official Hein doesn't get bursted down. He still hasn't got that much defense, and it's not easy for a Black Feather, because obviously he's not getting much farm compared to they're just trying to farm up Idris. But he needs to get a full Aegis on Adagio, and preferably Atlas on both of them. So both of those items are really important before it feels like Elite 8 can actually farm. Actually fight, sorry.
Yeah, and like right now, even though we see Infamous holding a steady lead, I think it really comes down to Elite 8 just getting onto that backline nicely and finding the right engage for themselves, because it looks like in the previous fights they get just a bit too split up because of the Arcane Passage, and I'd like to see a bit more communication or synergy there when going into these team fights.
Yeah, now that means Official Hein has picked up an Atlas Pauldron, so this is really good for Elite 8. They now have 2 Atlases, and they have a Clockwork on Lyra. I was expecting that to be turned into an Echo, but apparently cooldown is better than having 2 sigils one off the other. That's just an interesting decision for the Lyra. This will be a sentry taken by Infamous. No chance for Elite 8 to actually contest this, but now Official Hein has a chance to 1v1 Spaghetti. He's got a metal jacket, but if he doesn't block Official Hein's Atlas Pauldron, then it will be pretty easy. Anime Save Me most likely to get the first Atlas off, and then Official Hein will follow through with a second, and then Spaghetti's just kind of useless until he uses his ultimate, which normally you can just walk out of. If not, they've got blocks, Black Feather with an ult, Idris also with an ult to try and dodge the Burst of Judgment from Adagio.
Yeah, you're right there. The Verse of Judgment will be quite hard to land, but I think that in most cases, Infamous are just getting by with the Benediction, Holy Nova, and Afterburn kind of combo, and you could count some of the slow coming off of Spaghetti just when he gets that Arcane Fire off. However, I think that in these kind of situations, Spaghetti's just so focused on using those auto attacks in a lot of situations, and that's why Elite 8 have had to pick up 2 Atlas Pauldrons that you mentioned before. So you'd hope now, maybe in the next fight, they could have a chance of getting onto this Adagio and taking him out of the fight instantly, and then hoping to turn it around with the man advantage. But right now we see Infamous not being afraid or pushing up, probably looking for a fight themselves, as Tezboy going to go in with the Benediction. There's going to be the re-engage coming out from Elite 8, and they actually push Infamous off it. I think Infamous now waiting for Benediction and Afterburn to come up once again, because we talked about how crucial it is for them to both land these abilities.
Yeah, definitely. That was Crucible was actually used by Anime Save Me. So I don't know if Infamous saw that, but it could have been a good time for them to fight while that Crucible's on cooldown, but obviously going to be back up before the next engage happens. Glaver's still got his healing flask 20 minutes in, so that's probably... But he's probably going to get House on charges and keep it, because there's no reason for concern. There's going to be an engage.
Yeah, there's going to be the Benediction into the Holy Nova. Lyra actually getting out second, and now we see the rest of Infamous Legion pushing through Divine Intervention onto Spaghetti to keep him alive, but Tezboy needs to worry about himself as he's getting chased down by the rest of Elite 8. Doesn't get the second Divine Intervention off in time, but Chingy Spaghetti left untouched. They go through to pick up the ace, and they're just going to, I was gonna say, push through to the lane.
They could win the game, yeah, they could win the game now.
There to go for the Kraken. There's going to be 22 seconds before Anime Save Me is on the fold, and I don't think Lyra alone, as good as that Imperial Sigil can be sometimes to steal Krakens, is not going to be able to have a chance in this one, and it is looking dire for Elite 8.
Yeah, I don't think Imperial Sigil is a cross-map stealing machine, but Infamous want to wait for Tezboy to respawn, so this is actually a smart play because there's no global ultimate to steal this Kraken away, and there's no need for them to take the Kraken until Tezboy has respawned, and that's pretty clever from Infamous. But it does mean that Elite 8 have one last huzzah to try and defend this Kraken and try and stop the game going over to Infamous. I think that they could have just pushed for the win, but it would have been very risky with only 2 members. Maybe with all 3, they would have gone for the win, but with just 2, they're deciding, let's take the Kraken. We're confident we can win this team fight. Let's see.
Well, let's see indeed if Elite 8 had that one last huzzah in them. And they are infused. The Idris' infusion soon to run out. However, they need to make something happen here and now. I would not let that Kraken push into the base with only 2 turrets remaining. So what are Elite 8 going to do except try and burn down this Kraken right now? You see Imperial Sigil has been used, and this could be the go sign for Infamous, and there's going to be Atlas. I don't think it even hit Glaive at that distance, and they take the first turret down. Kraken going very low, however. Elite 8 might be able to turn this one around, but there's going to be the Holy Nova knocking up 2 of Elite 8's team members, and they're going to jump on Spaghetti. They find the kill, and there's going to be the kill onto, oh, not quite Tezboy, as they manage, Grace managing to pick up on Jaegers, and it looks like Chingy's still alive. He's going to be able to take back Crystal behind the base, and with the help of Kraken that was still standing, it looked close, but Infamous pushing through, playing that one strong, and finishing out 23 minutes 14 and GG.
Yeah, well played, Infamous. Tezboy did 1,020 heal onto Spaghetti and then onto Chingy. To do anything against that, even with the CP, just with the massive damage he's got. Official